So, some of you may very well be old enough to remember the Great Cod Wars. In fact, there were, I think, 3 Cod Wars in total, and each and every single one of them, Britain lost. So this sets out an amazing path of a country that the Brexiteers praise so much for being this this glorious nation can barely win a quote-unquote cod war against what is an absolutely, in comparison to the UK, a tiny nation. And I'm sorry to anyone from Iceland, but, it's true. When the UK can't even win a war like that, what does it say when we are now faced with all things of what is being called the Great Sausage War of 2001? And ultimately, this will probably end up being replayed just like the Cod War was, because Johnson, literally, I think it was yesterday, was issued pretty much a diplomatic rebuke from Joe Biden. So Boris Johnson is now having what many people are calling his Suez moment. And like I say, so much for that much vaunted and wanted American trade deal that the Brexiteers claimed so much that they wanted from Brexit, and that was like the holy grail of Brexit, the American trade deal. So much for that. Because if you don't honour this, and even if, through some remarkable mishap that, Donald Trump ends up becoming, the American president again, this ain't going through Congress. This ain't going anywhere through Congress. It ain't happening. So let's get in to the tales of the Great Sausage War of 2001. But before we do jump into that, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, buy me a coffee. And there's also now the Pony Club as well, where you can hit that little join button next to the subscribe button, and you get little benefits from that. So, let's jump into this then, shall we? So, this comes from The Independent, and it's titled, "What is the Brexit Sausage War All About?" Britain's long history of Euroscepticism have seen a whole series of food-related rows with Brussels over everything from bendy bananas to crisp flavour regulations to the latest bust-up, however, revolves around sausages. Boris Johnson's government is accusing Brussels of adopting a purist approach to meat regulations, enshrined in the Brexit withdrawal agreement deal. Warnings that the import of sausages from Great Britain to Northern Ireland could be entirely blocked. The row comes ahead of a looming grace period deadline in a temporary agreement which has allowed the Northern Irish supermarkets to continue importing chilled meats, including all those imported sausages. So, why so much fuss over sausages? Mr. Johnson's government has threatened to act unilaterally to ignore the legal required checks on chilled meats and sausages and on mince moving from Great Britain to Northern Ireland when the current grace period expires at the end of June. The EU food safety rules mean that only frozen meat can be imported into its single market, and under the Northern Ireland Protocol, those food safety rules are also imposed on goods moving across the Irish Sea. The EU Commission Vice President Markus Sovac has made it very clear that Brussels will act swiftly, firmly and resolutely if the UK tried to backtrack on any agreements it made under the Brexit withdrawal deal. Mr. Sovac has also raised the prospect of a trade war rising, with the EU imposing tariffs and quotas on British exports if the UK failed to meet any of the international obligations enshrined in the protocol. So, by the way, if the EU does decide to initiate a trade war with us, they will win. They will win this. It's not a Britain will act, like a plucky little country like it did, quote unquote, during the Second World War, where we had our entire empire to help keep us, alive and funding during that time. the Empire ain't going to suddenly resurrect and, rally to our side once again. And even to a point where America has also sided with the EU over this. So America ain't going to come and save us either. Like I say, Brexit is all going wrong, and we're barely, we're barely just over halfway into the year, and it's already falling to pieces. So, why are ministers getting so angry about sausages, though? The Environmental Secretary, George Eustice, has described the row as bonkers on Tuesday, claiming that he had no idea why the EU imposed such idiosyncratic rules over the movement of chilled meat. I suspect it links to some kind of perception that they can't really trust any country other than an EU country to make sausages, Mr Eustace said. The following Cabinet Minister, Robert Jerrick, said on Wednesday that the UK was only asking the EU to show some common sense over some of the more protocol arrangements. So we're asking them to show some common sense and enable something as simple as chilled meats, like sausage, to travel from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, the Northern Ireland Community Secretary told Sky News. Mr Jerrick also said that I hope that we can sort this out, because there are also things even more important than sausages at stake here, for example, medicines. So what happens next? And is there any room for compromise? No. This government is not going to compromise with the EU over this. So, Brexit Minister David Frost is urging the EU to show pragmatism and common sense ahead of a meeting with his counterpart, Mr Slovak, in London on Wednesday. And like I say, there was no obvious way that there was no going to be compromise, because that's why Frosty got put in charge. He got put there as a point of antagonism to try and antagonise the EU, so that the UK can be then forced to ditch the Northern Ireland Protocol. And then, as we've heard some Brexiteers say, try and then force the rest of Ireland out of the EU. And I'm not making that up, by the way. That is what a lot of Brexiteers are actually saying now. So while there is still no sign of a breakthrough on the deal on chilled meat exports, reporters on both sides are ready to agree that some changes are needed in the protocol. It could mean that the, quote, uninterrupted supply of medicines moving between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, as well as easing some of the livestock regulations, could avoid multiple tagging. EU officials insist that they want to go further, and Brussels has encouraged the UK to agree to a Swiss-style agri-food deal, which could eliminate roughly about 80% of the checks on goods. But, of course, Downing Street has rebuffed the offer, fearing that any agreement tying the UK to EU food standards would damage the chances of a comprehensive free trade deal with the US. And, of course, this morning we've also seen that Biden has rebuked the UK for not following the Northern Ireland Protocol. And like I say, this could be solved. This could literally be solved with a stroke of a pen. If Boris Johnson agreed to follow more EU standards, or joined the EU Common Market, or the EU Economic Area. Like I say, the EU ain't going anywhere. It's here to stay, and the idea that we can just pretend that the EU doesn't exist is not going to happen. And like I say, what's even more bonkers is, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the Brexiteers are now pushing this idea that somehow, for some reason, Ireland should also leave the EU. Which leaves me completely and utterly speechless. It really does. But that's the absolute nonsense magical thinking that we're seeing at the moment in the UK. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as one off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And also down below there is a link to the YouTube memberships down as well. So, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time.